guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the American Awakening. Let me bring these things online here that I should have had up already. All right. I'd like to just welcome everyone here on the IRN, on IRNbroadcast.com. Got an awesome show lined up for you tonight. Main topics, hope to get through. Breaking news, Hunter Biden's a crackhead. Yes, I hope you were sitting down for that. Absolutely shocking revelations like that and more you'll hear on tonight's show. On a actually breaking news type situation here, we're going to discuss my request for a meeting with Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody. A lot of breaking news you're going to hear tonight. That's including but not limited to the unlawful and with malicious intent, I believe, to wiretap and record me without my knowledge or consent, all potentially orchestrated by Alex Jones and InfoWars to discredit the Shadowgate documentary, which, ironically enough, Alex Jones literally funded. I should know because I slept in his RV while I was doing my interviews. I'd also like tonight to discuss with Ashley's investigators information, which I won't be going into publicly now at least, that is highly credible regarding the arrest of Millie Weaver. Folks, that's not a joke. Although you do come, many people come to IRNbroadcast.com for comedy. I wasn't joking about that. You're going to find my show is kind of like a mixture of laughing, crying, and mistimed drum rolls. Really loud ones too. I'm gonna have to work on that volume. Anyway, again, my name is Patrick Berge, and welcome to the American Awakening. Shameless plug, Shadowgate 2, the fake news industrial complex, starring yours truly, whistleblower, and former 40-year-old private, PFC Berge. I have no monetary benefit whatsoever to anything Shadowgate related, the movie, t-shirts, or otherwise. Wanted to throw that out there. I merely want to encourage everyone to support Millie Weaver to get my story out and expose all the corruption listed in my federal Ketam lawsuit and even my 2015 IG complaint. All very important things, my friends, very important things. Let me do this here real quick if we could. Alrighty there, so mess with the volume there just a hair. I don't know why that is doing what it's doing there, but let me bump this up so we make sure to get what I hope to be a pretty good audio recording today. All right, so last week's episode was dedicated to the fake news industrial complex. This week, episode 3, yes, episode 3, can you believe we are that far into what can only be an unimaginable journey? Last week's was dedicated to the fake news industrial complex. This week, we are dedicating it to draining the swamp. Actually, a show I did with Kevin Holly, who does the Kevin Holly Show every Wednesday on IRNbroadcast.com from, I believe, 8 to 11. And you know, we actually did some of that stuff. We did a Draining the Swamp series. You know, you guys could have avoided and saved all, you know, years of Russia, years of dealing with the fake impeachment and all this crap, had you simply listened to the Kevin Holly Show on IRNbroadcast.com back in 2017 when we were trying to warn you all about this, right? So now, we can't start a show about corruption without making some obvious connections between how I, an easily verifiable DOD whistleblower that worked 8 years for Obama's National Security Advisor, General James Jones, on a DOD-funded social media psychological warfare application, just to name one, not to mention how the Hunter Biden whistleblower was attacked. We can't start the show talking about that without showing how, you know, the parallels to how a whistleblower was treated. Granted, this guy came forward after, quote, after the emails were leaked. I, like many others, came forward to expose fraud, waste, and abuse, not only because we had to, you know, because it had already leaked out, but because it was the right thing and honorable thing to do. But that doesn't make this guy, what was his name, Bobulinski, that doesn't mean he should be personally attacked and called a Russian disinformation agent. I mean, the guy's got actually a pretty interesting career. To dismiss this, I believe, is a mistake. We're going to try to play that out. I want to play a quick clip here. Let me see if I can pull this up. Here we go. There we are. Where did this go? Oh, did I close that out? I did, right? Because I'm a interesting individual. Let me do this. I can pull this up in 2 seconds. Let's see here. All right. Well, we're not. There we go. Wish I had some. Hey, let's do this. We'll put some TikTok music on while I find this here. And we're not in dead air. Wow, I cannot control the volume on that at all. There we go. There we are. All right, got it right here. Believe it or not, this was not the first attempt.
The former vice president has said he had no knowledge whatsoever of his son's business dealings and was not involved in them at all. But this sounds like direct involvement in them.
Yeah, that's a blatant lie. When he states that, that is a blatant lie. Obviously, the world's aware that I attended the debate last Thursday. And in that debate, he made a specific statement around questions around this from the president. And I'll be honest with you, I almost stood up and screamed liar and walked out because I was shocked that after 4 days or 5 days that they prepped for this, that the Biden family is taking that position to the world.
All right. So that was interesting, right? So the guy is a whistleblower. Here we go. Not sure how I'm coming out here. So the guy's a whistleblower. He's coming out trying to do the right thing, as far as we know. Like I said, should he have come out, you know, before? Yeah, probably. Wish he would have. A lot of people do. I did. Big cost for that. Doesn't mean you shouldn't. But he's out now, people. Should you just, like, ignore him? Should we not be listening? Oh my God, I just, actually there's an actual miracle. I have to stop and interject on my stunning ability on the audio deck here. We're actually still recording after 10 minutes. Oh my God. It's a miracle. Camera doesn't work, but I'm taking baby steps on these. I'm loving this, right? So I'm loving this. When half the things work in a broadcast, I'm thinking at this point, you're doing pretty damn good. Again, this is episode 3. But so we go back to the Hunter Biden thing, right? So this guy, whistleblower, comes out, tries to expose everybody, and what does he do? He's attacked. He's not. The actual evidence that he is submitting isn't being questioned. Oh, God forbid they actually ask questions about what he's stating. You know, they go to attack him personally. This guy's like a veteran, served his country. I find it disgusting, right? That and I really don't understand. I think it's a really bad place that we're at. After Shadowgate 2 was released, absolute, just unbelievable attacks on Tory, on Millie and Gavin, on myself. People, you know, I didn't actually mind it too much. I kind of sat back, watched, listened, learned, exposed a lot of stuff from it. So to that extent, it was good. Kind of like what I think Trump's doing. You know, Trump won in 2016, and with you know, coming in to drain the swamp, that probably made a lot of people very, very nervous, right? So Trump comes in, says he's going to drain the swamp. Everybody, all these little swamp creatures start coming out of the shadows into the light, right? So unfortunately, this has been covered up largely by the media. There was actually a tweet somebody showed me earlier. Let me see if I can find that tweet with DNI. I think it was former DNI Grinnell, maybe, or DNI Grinnell. It was actually, and keep in mind, like, this guy is one of our top law enforcement guys. Let me read this here real quick from Richard Grinnell. Make no mistake. This was about 4 hours ago from what I see. Make no mistake. The public sees Hunter Biden and Joe Biden family corruption story. So yeah, we see it. The DC media lost control over the public a while ago. The story is now about who is trying to hide it. And you know, he capitalized who, which could be a clue, because these are PSYOP guys going back a long way. What is who capitalized? You know, World Health Organization, so I guess perhaps I read something into that that didn't exist, but you got these people that in the media, as he said, that have kind of lost control of the public, right? Now, I think actually there's another layer to this where there is an outside influence on the media. It's look at the policy. Look at the policy guide for IIA. I mean, come on, people. That's literally what IIA was designed to do. It was designed to kind of help meld the needs of the PSYOP community with the needs of the PAO, the Public Affairs Office. Now, the Public Affairs Office, during that debate, which you can find that debate pretty well documented and cited by Professor Emma, I think Bryant, who wrote a very well-cited white paper on the kind of conflict going on between the war going on between the PSYOP community. This is going back in 2008. Specifically with the IIA programs, specifically mentioning IIA, specifically mentioning TRWI, which I go into in the Shadowgate 2 documentary. I highly recommend watching Shadowgate 1 and Shadowgate 2. They can both be found at millennialmillie.com. And again, I make nothing for this, but when you go there, you watch it, buy a damn t-shirt from them. I don't make a penny from it. But if you want to see Shadowgate 3 and Shadowgate 4, what Shadowgate 4, I believe, is going to be involving My 2015 IG complaint for the work that I did in South Korea. We're talking about USFK J8. We're talking about a $10 billion transformation and relocation program in which I was the information assurance security officer for the transformation relocation program. My employment was terminated when I refused to give administrative access, to a government employee, a GS 13 or 14, a division chief, who did not have the appropriate memorandums and the appropriate authorization to have classified administrative access to this classified information. I'm sorry, folks. My job as the Information Assurance Security Officer, the IASO, paid for, I would remind you, by taxpayers, was to protect this data. And you protect this data by following rules and regulations. And if you don't have access, if you don't have the appropriate memorandums, if you don't have the appropriate training, you cannot have access to a classified network, administrative access for sure, because I'm setting my clients up, I'm setting our users up for failure if I give them more access than what they are capable of using, because the guy could go in there and just delete whatever he wanted, change whatever he wanted. You got to have control and limitations. This is exactly what we saw with Hillary Clinton, with the emails, with her email server in her shitter, I believe, right? Wasn't it like a bathroom closet or something? She literally, there would have been a guy, an IASO, probably a contractor, much like myself, who would have been responsible for ensuring that she complies with knowledge management, contact management, information assurance, security policies and protocols. And that guy would have, I absolutely guarantee you, seen that, walked up to Hillary Clinton and said, you know, sorry ma'am, but there's nowhere in our policy guidelines that says you can be keeping this information on your own private server in your shitter, right? I would have had to have thrown that in there. I like to be open and honest to my clients. And it was just the height of stupidity. But had that ISO, had that contractor, like myself, gone to her and done that, she would have picked up the phone, called his program manager, and they would have sent him the same email or had the same conversation with him as they did me when I tried to enforce those policies. And they would have said, listen, you need to play ball. Stop upsetting the client. Or we're going to have to get rid of you. We're going to have to replace you. Oh my God, how is following rules and regulations, how is national security interfering with, the client? Yeah, it might make their life a little more complicated. Oh, boo-hoo. It protects national security. It protects lives. There's a purpose for that. It protects your taxpayer dollars. I was keeping an eye out. USFK J8-4, who was under J8, was literally the comptroller's office. Comptroller in charge of 30,000 people out there, the funding and the payroll and the $10 billion transformation and relocation. If you think, I'm telling you right now, Shadowgate 4 comes out, if that ever sees the light of day, which it actually does need help, the funding is going to need to be there if we're going to be able to get Millie and Gavin, possibly even myself, over to South Korea to actually investigate this, to actually dig in and do something that the mainstream media should have done, could have done, but for some reason won't. Hell, I saw a text by Judge Janine Pirro and Sarah Carter, both people who killed my story back in 2019. Both of them who killed my story in 2019 were in South Korea 6 months or 8 months after that. I have no idea why, but they could have done it, but they won't. They won't. They'll use it politically, or maybe they're too afraid. Maybe somebody's got dirt on them. Who knows? But it's pretty disgusting, right? But that's what we see every day, people. That's not just my story. That's the Hunter Biden story. The only difference between Hunter Biden and General Jones's son, Jim Jones, who I answered to directly for nearly the entire 8 years that I was there, the only difference is a damn crack pipe and I'm pretty sure whores. But, not entirely sure on the last part, but pretty confident on the first part. That's the only difference. The only difference is that Hunter Biden was a dumbass following a crack pipe. And, so China calls him up and says, hey, we got like all bunches of crack pipes over here. All you got to do is, sign here and say this and say that. Or if Ukraine calls him up and says, yeah, we got a bunch of crack over here, he's going to pretty much do what you tell him to do. But someone as intelligent as General Jones's son, former Marine himself, who was literally running and doing DOD contracts from 2000, right? 2001, when Dynology was founded. Now keep in mind, the son of, in 2001, at that time, the Marine Corps Commandant, the son of the Marine Corps Commandant, was profiting from DOD weapons sales. What's wrong with that picture? Okay, well, if that doesn't bother you, maybe you're a Marine and like, okay, well, I'll help a brother out, right? Well, how about if you were supporting anybody in the military, whether American or over in the UK or Canadian, any of the people that I served with under NATO command? How about when General Jones in 2004, I believe that was the year, was a NATO Supreme Allied Commander of Europe? How would you feel if you were a father or a mother that lost a son or a daughter over there fighting a war that was being ran, no matter how legitimately, by a guy whose son was profiting from DOD weapons sales? Yes, the NATO Supreme Allied Commander's son was profiting from DOD weapons sales while I was serving under NATO when I was in Afghanistan. Right? I think when people understand that, for sure, people who were over in Afghanistan and understand all the sacrifices that were made, I gotta believe those people cannot be happy with basically, Hunter Biden minus the crack pipe, only not with energy contracts like what was going on in Ukraine between Burisma, and as we all know, and what's well published, the Atlantic Council, which General Jones was the chairman of the board of. Actually, John Huntsman, Abby Huntsman of Fox News, was the chairman of the board of the Atlantic Council when Burisma was engaging in pretty shifty money deals, what appeared to be money laundering deals in Ukraine back in 2014. Then John Huntsman, turning over the reins to someone I'm sure he could trust, taps General Jones to replace him as chairman of the board of Atlantic Council. People, there's a game being played. There's a party going on, right? There's an IIA party going on by a bunch of retired generals and social media influencers and mainstream media and elected officials, and this party is, taxpayers are getting the bill for this, but we sure as hell aren't invited. We aren't even getting the reach around on this one. Hunter Biden's running around screwing everybody in a skirt, but when it comes to taxpayers, at least they're getting the reach around, right? Kind of doesn't seem fair. If we're paying pretty good money for this, we should get something for it, Hunter. Wow, some of the stuff that came out on Hunter, I completely, and mark this moment down. You're going to hear me actually agree with Facebook on a policy that they had, and that was don't go sharing pictures of Hunter Biden potentially banging a minor, because that's child porn. Now, white elephant in the room is that's child porn of the son of a presidential candidate who appears to have been knowingly abusing his father's power by his father, knowingly abusing it. The whistleblowers coming out on this left and right, not just the whistleblowers, but the forensically verifiable emails. And people will say, well, it hasn't been forensically verified. Well, no crap. That's because the mainstream media, half of which were probably in most of those email threads between crackhead and his father covering him up, letting him get away with it. Half the people that could be reporting on this are probably in on it. It's pretty sad, and I don't say that lightly. I say it because it's been my personal experience as a whistleblower since 2015, right? Again, there's a party. You're paying for it, but you're sure as hell not invited. I'm kind of trying to change that. I want to change that up a little bit. So what I'm doing today, as soon as I finish recording this broadcast, is I'm going to draft an email to Attorney General Ashley Moody. Kind of a cool story with Ashley. I rode my Harley with Bikers for Trump back in 2018, spring and summer of 2018. Bikers for Trump, Bikers 45. I can't remember who it was at the time, but George Kalala was actually instrumental in supporting and getting Ashley Moody, Governor Ron DeSantis' now Attorney General, into the position. He got her through. He got her through the Republican primary, which, and then through the actual election in 18, the midterm election in 18, which in the state of Florida included both the governor and the attorney general. She won that, and that was awesome. I met Ashley on a couple occasions. I actually ran into her at Quaker Steak and Lube back in maybe a couple months before the election. She was doing a speaking engagement there with a bunch of other candidates, and Laura Trump was there. I brought a copy of my book, Victim of the Swamp, How the Deep State Destroyed the 40-Year-Old Private. Shameless plug time. I'll remind everyone that that's available on both freedomstream.tv. You can find the link to it there. You can find a link to it to victimoftheswamp.com, and you can also Google Victim of the Swamp, How the Deep State Destroyed the 40-Year-Old Private on Amazon, right? So I highly encourage that. And actually will give you a little bit of background about myself, my enlistment at the age of 39 in the Army, turning 40 at basic training. If I understand right, I was the first 40-year-old to complete basic training with no prior military experience in their history. Kind of cool. It was tough. But with perseverance, I survived basic training, and with perseverance, America will survive that crackhead Biden, right? It just takes the effort, folks. It takes you getting off your couch. It takes you, a pastor of mine told me once, if you, in order, you can't, you're not going to see a miracle until you get out of the boat and try to walk. I have a little faith and walk on water, right? So you can't walk on water if you don't get out of the boat. It takes faith, and that doesn't mean that you're not always going to kind of sink, possibly even drown, doing the right thing. But in the end, we will survive this. We will survive this. There's an election coming up here in less than a week, and just like a little over a week right now. And that election is going to determine, even if, and I'm calling it right now for President Trump, there's, in my mind, not a snowball's chance in hell. And I see all of these polls, but I mean, I'm sorry. I don't have to sit and point. Do you really need to remind everyone out there of how wrong the polls were in 2016? And so if you're going to sit there and say, well, I'm sure they're right in 2020, well, great. We'll both find that out in a very short period of time, but I'm pretty sure it's full of crap. I've been driving around the country on my Harley over the summer, and I drove from Michigan to Austin, Texas, to do my interview with Alex Jones and on InfoWars. And I tell you right now, I saw thousands. I as a joke, I said, hey, every time I pass a Trump 2020 sign on my Harley, I'm going to yell out, Trump 2020, who? And I did, right? And after a while, it was like I had to, like, honestly just start passing them because I couldn't, it's like I was going to go hoarse. It was just too much. Everywhere I saw were, and I largely, other than the last part of my trip, I largely avoided highways. I took the rural roads. Again, from Michigan to Austin, Texas, I may have seen a half dozen Hunter Biden signs and bumper stickers, and that's not a lie. That's not an exaggeration. That's not a joke, as God is my witness. How does that possibly equate to Hunter Biden being 10 points ahead in the polls right now? I mean, come on. It's freaking laughable. But let's just say, so let's say Trump does win, right? He's going to. So Trump wins and Democrats try to delegitimize it. Well, I got a surprise for him. And let's say Trump loses. Let's say he loses legitimately. I'm okay with that. This is a Democrat republic. And you don't always like who's the damn president, but that doesn't mean that you try to kind of throw the baby with the bathwater out and destroy your damn country because of it. So that's why I'm reaching out to Ashley Moody, and I am sending this email today. And I would love my listeners, I would love my Twitter followers, which you can follow me on Twitter at PFC40book. Again, that's at PFC40book. You can follow me on YouTube on the American Awakening, and go there and share this information. Reach out to Ashley Moody, and I mean in the nicest, most professional manner. She's really a super awesome individual, right? Florida's been blessed with an attorney general like Ashley Moody. That's not the point here. This woman, anybody in that seat, whether you're a woman or a man, I don't care. You are going, the second you respond to an email of mine, or the second that you try to help me, and you can potentially add any relevance, you turn me from not a threat to a threat. That's what happened. That's why these people allowed me to do what I was doing, largely unmolested, unless you call destroying my life, preventing me from getting a job, putting me in a homeless shelter unmolested. Barring those specific ironies, if, once they find out that once someone gives you that platform, like Millie and Gavin did, they were attacked. The moment they, and when you find out what's going on, the stuff that I'm taking to Attorney General Ashley Moody is fact witness and forensically verifiable evidence, first of all. A lot of the stuff was included in my federally filed D.C. Ketam lawsuit, the Lincoln Law lawsuit that I filed in D.C. back in January. Some of it stems back to my work in 2015, where I filed a IG complaint. Now, I was a resident of Florida at that time. I was working overseas. A lot of this stuff happened to me while I was in Florida, so I believe this falls under the auspices of the Florida Attorney General. I would also like to speak to her about the potential of being illegally wiretapped and recorded without my knowledge or consent on at least one of two calls, in which this information was then put out as an interview by a YouTube influencer, by a social media influencer. Now, that seems like, okay, no problem. But then that YouTube influencer, ironically enough, just started working for InfoWars, like about maybe 3 weeks ago or so. Actually got a channel on InfoWars. I'm kind of thinking that That is strongly suggesting to me the way this guy attacked me, the way this guy illegally and unlawfully recorded me without my knowledge or consent, which was done entirely to discredit and destroy the integrity of myself, of Millie, of Gavin, of Chuck, of all the people in their family, right? Literally people that were sitting in jail at the time. It was done to destroy their integrity for the purpose of protecting Alex Jones for what I believe are crimes. I believe when we start peeling back this onion, you're going to find, and I base this on information that people have brought to me. Now, I'm not going to submit this because it's hearsay to Ashley Moody, but I've had people tell me that Alex Jones is making a lot more money on like the stuff that he's selling online than the actual stuff he's selling online. And he's making that money because he's turning around and selling your data to the same military-industrial complex that I'm trying to expose for using that data to build predictive behavioral models that turn around and influence and use influence operations via social media, using the mainstream media as assets to publicly disseminate lies, fake news, all the things we've been whining about for the last several years. Would be an irony if InfoWars kind of turned out to be the clearinghouse, the fusion cell for all of the jacked up, malevolent little threat actors that have chosen to put profit before patriotism and their company before our country. But we'll see, because I know that these are all connected. They really are. The evidence is overwhelming on that. But we need an investigation. We need Florida's Attorney General to start peeling this onion back. Now, I would argue, let's say Trump loses. Well, no matter who's in office, an Attorney General, as you will you saw so well, like in New York with the New York Attorney General, how he attacked President Trump for virtually the whole time he was in office with fake BS charges. He was the one that did who hit Michael Cohen and got Cohen, guilt by association, because Cohen is an attorney and a piece of crap. Of course, President Trump's got to be a piece of crap, right? You got to stop these associations, people. Whatever President Trump was 2-3 decades ago, whoever any of us was 2-3 decades ago, we're not the same people today. Whoever most of us was 2-3 years ago, we're not the same people today. People grow, we expand, we experience things. Some people pick up addictions, like crack, right? Pretty sure Hunter Biden's not the same kid that Joe remembers. That's a shame. That's a shame. Just look at what the drugs are doing to some of these people out here. Hell, half the meth community don't even have their teeth right now. It destroys people physically, mentally. I can't really blame, only to a certain extent, Hunter Biden. I certainly do blame Joe Biden. He's known about what was going on just as much as, and if you say Joe Biden didn't know what was going on, and if you say Barack Obama didn't know what was going on, or if you say Hillary Clinton didn't know what was going on, well, you're going to be hard-pressed to tell me that, a guy who worked 8 years for Obama's national security advisor, General James Jones, who damn sure knew what his son was doing. And it's all the same crap. It's all the same corruption. Doesn't matter. Same shit, different day, right? Same crack, different pipe. I don't know. Just made that one up. You can use that, Hunter. But so what we're going to do now, no matter who's in office, and I pray, it's President Trump, because we are going to shine light on what's going on, just like President Trump did when he put his neck out and ran for presidency. Again, doesn't matter what his intentions were. Maybe he started this out as a joke. I don't care. People are like, well, he's just trying to steal money from taxpayers. I would freaking say to Congress right now, if that man's willing to expose the corruption of these people like Joe Biden that have been in office for the last 50 years, write that president, no matter who or what you think he is, a check for $1 billion right now. Problem with that? I don't care if he said grab him by the pussy. I don't care what kind of individual this is. If he's willing to expose, I don't care if freaking Pee Wee Herman masturbating in the back of a theater in Sarasota, which, by the way, I know the guy whose van was in that picture in the Rolling Stone magazine when that all went down. A little bit of fun fact there. But I don't care who it is, right? I'll give you, as a taxpayer, I'll authorize my congressman to authorize $1 billion if you want to legitimately expose these people. Why does it matter who it is that's exposing them? Because Obama, Mr. Hope and Change, sure as hell didn't do it. He didn't do any of this stuff. He had 8 years to actually do something about, race relations. And what did he do? Ferguson. He's been burning cities down, Democrat cities, where he could have been a uniter. He was a divider. Where he could have been a patriot, he chose profit. That's what we got, folks. And because they've been allowed to exist, basically making their own laws, writing their own rules, they've got the judicial system bought and paid for. Look at General Flynn. I'm not saying whether or not I agree with the man. I actually sit there, I'm one of the people that will sit there and say, he's a freaking retired general that owned a company that was profiting from DOD contracts. I don't know if they were while he was a general, like General Jones. I don't know what his family members were profiting from it was. I'm going to kind of assume they was. Everybody wasn't. Everybody was. My God. Like I said, there's been a party going on at your expense and you're not invited. But all these people, Flynn included, have been invited. Why didn't any of these people open up a cafe when they retired? Down in the Keys, maybe a little bar, sell smoothies. And I wouldn't be calling you out as traitors, treasonous bastards, selling out our country to the lowest bidder, not even the highest bidder, right? I mean, come on, people. It's pretty sad. We have the ability to expose this, my friends, and I'm gonna go down. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna send this email to Ashley Moody requesting her time or time with at least an investigator or two in her office next Monday. Going to be going down there first thing Monday morning. And this is going to be an official, sworn, on record statement. I believe this is going to expose, I believe this is going to show that Alex Jones was involved with and encouraged, if not paid for, the illegal recording, unlawful, non-consensual recording of myself by someone who is now the newest employee at InfoWars. Not even going to say his name. Piece of human filth. Piece of human garbage. He was actually, surprising though, this guy actually was a Patreon guy that reached out to me back in October, November of last year, 2019. Reached out to me. I didn't reach out to him. Wanted to hear my story. I'm wondering, was this guy, I mean, we know Laura Logan, New York Times, broke stories back in May that just kind of got resurfaced again the last few weeks about how General Stanley McChrystal was using DARPA technology, DOD, taxpayer-funded DARPA technology, social media, psychological warfare applications to influence Floridians, to get them to help change the narrative, to expose Trump's fake news. Seriously? They're going to use social media, the same social media psychological warfare applications that I've been bitching about forever, to expose Trump's lies? Are you freaking kidding me? People, again, there's a party going on. Everybody's having a lot of fun. They're all doing coke, smoking crack. Look at the parties with the InfoWar crew. Look at the parties with Caitlin Bennett. Oh dear God. There's a picture which she is not denied and which has been reported on extensively of her passed out drunk, apparently having shit herself in college just a few years back, right? And personally, I think that she may have been raped or something there. I think actually there a crime was committed. I will never share that picture publicly, just like I wouldn't condone anybody exposing or sharing pictures of Hunter Biden having sex with what appears to be an underage minor. You know, white elephant in the room, there's a lot of speculation going out there that that underage minor has a last name of Obama. Are you freaking kidding me, people? Again, everybody's getting fucked, except for only one of them's getting the reach around, apparently. We're certainly not. We're all getting screwed. We're all getting screwed. And, you know, it doesn't matter if you're a child. It doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're a veteran. These people walking around with their flag pins will throw you under the bus to protect their contracts, to protect their multi-million-dollar media deals. You know, didn't used to be like that. It used to be that journalists were poor, right? Journalists were poor like the rest of us. And then, you know, Hollywood got a hold of it, and they had, you know, little dapper little, they put on, you know, and little Anderson Coopers. Jesus, that guy's connected back. You know, I've seen reports that he was actually, he went to like actually a school for CIA. Oh my God, somebody approached him about Operation Mockingbird. You know, I try to stay in my own AOR. I try to limit to what I know specifically. And when I can verify something fact-based and specific, I throw it out there. I tell you, hey, this is fact-based specific. It's in my signed, sworn, IG complaint. It's in my signed, sworn key tam lawsuit. Can't put that out there with this, but you know, these guys, these people have been just so blatantly abusing the system. They basically got the IG's network, the Inspector General network for the Department of Justice is nothing more than a honeypot for honor and integrity, right? Somebody tries to expose someone, somebody sees somebody doing something wrong. If that person has sufficient political clout, the person doing it will now be destroyed, fired. They don't even hide it. I mean, oh my God, one day after I filed an official, formal complaint of fraud, waste, and abuse, thinking that as a subcontractor, working as the Information Assurance Security Officer on a DOD project, that I would be protected doing my job. But that's not the case. One day after I filed a complaint, a formal complaint of fraud, waste, and abuse against which amounts to a complaint against General James Jones, his son, people at the really, really very, very, very powerful people, powerful corporations. Right? One day after I filed that complaint, they modified the contract I had been working for the last 5 years, removing only the requirement for my position. And then within a day or two of me leaving, being forced out with no other contract to put me on, so essentially, you know, I believe that they call that constructively terminated, but within a day, they modified a $12 million contract. Kind of seems like there's some fraud, waste, and abuse going on there, but they modified that contract back to its original requirements, replacing me. And do you think that the guy that they replaced me with isn't going to look at what happened to the guy before him? And when that division chief walks up to him and says, hey, I want access, although I don't have the documents, to this administrative access to this classified network, do you believe the guy they replaced me with is going to sacrifice his job? No, they don't, people. So now we got a guy, the next generation of whistleblowers that have been, you know, weeded out. We need to weed them back in. General Jones and General Michael Hayden founded ClearForce, clearforce.com. Look it up if you don't believe me. Frickin' type it in. Not a lot of letters there, people. You can type it in. You can go there. You can look at the board of directors. Well, they changed a lot of that, actually, after Shadowgate 1 dropped. Actually, a lot of those websites went down. You got to watch Shadowgate 2. Can't stress that enough. That goes into that. Shows you all the stuff that mainstream media isn't going to show you. But that was all exposed, my friends. That was all exposed. We need to keep on them, and that's what I plan to do. Just like the New York Attorney General managed to make Trump's life hell for the last 5 years, I think that we need, should Biden win, to get the Attorney General here to actually legitimately, with a verified complaint, not this bull crap that the DNC's been coming up with, using an Attorney General to subvert our democracy, to try to overthrow a duly elected president. Instead of doing that, let's have someone actually do their job, actually investigate the crimes reported by a whistleblower going back 5 years, people, before Trump was president. You think I'm freaking psychic? Tori's a time traveler, not me. I'm a fact witness, right? So, man, we need to keep the pressure on. I'm going to be putting out some tweets to Ashley Moody. Please, people, treat this woman with respect. Just ask her. Tell her, we understand you're going to get pressure for this. We understand you're risking your career. Please, Ashley. Just like you did when I gave you my book and said, can you try to get my book to Laura Trump? She took my book and walked over and tried to get close to Laura Trump, but by that time, Laura was already in the limousine. And Ashley looked over at me with the saddest eyes because she realized how personal this was for me, how crushed it was for me that I came that close to try to exposing all this stuff, and just, you know, victory snatched away. Once again, she honestly seemed really like to understand, to get it, but there was nothing she could do. You know, God bless her for trying, but we need to reach out to Ashley. We gotta get this message to her, folks. She's got to pick up the ball on this. I will, under penalty of perjury, under penalty of locking me up for the next decade. Because very soon right now, folks, and like I said, there are things that I'm aware of. There are things that I'm aware of that led to the arrest of Millie, that when they come out, and I'm leaving this to Millie, to Gavin, and to the Attorney General. This isn't something I'm just going to throw out and try to make news or try to get clicks with. This is going to the Attorney General, but when I tell you it's one of the most shocking, horrifying, treasonous, subversive acts by some of the most powerful people that you can even imagine, in some of the most incredible places that you can imagine, that abused their power to try to silence Shadowgate, to try to silence a federally, what you would think would be a federally protected whistleblower, having filed a Ketam lawsuit in D.C. federal court. You would think that our government would protect me, protect these people, but that's why, because people like General Jones and Michael Hayden, they build ClearForce to be able to create predictive minority report, like behavioral profiles that can, like precogs, determine if you're going to steal or do something wrong before you do it. And then they use those HR departments right now, today, clearforce.com. Go there if you don't believe me. Obama's national security advisor, Obama's CIA director, literally track everything you do at work, when you leave the office, social media, criminal background, financial, travel, everything. Social media, all your posts, your friends' posts, your family posts. I think the charge for that's like about $1,500 a month. They turn around and instead of actually enhancing and protecting whistleblowers like myself, they've turned around and decided, hey, let's create this minority report, like predictive capability, called clearforce.com. Let's turn this around, sell it back to our government at $1,500 per month per user, not per seat. It's not per server, that's per seat. Thank you very much in licensing terms. And again, taxpayers paying that bill. Is it being used? Is it being abused? Kind of going to assume, yeah. They certainly put company before country when constructively terminating me. Somebody who actually trusted them, kind of looked up to them and admired them until he realized what they were. I mean, I pretty much realized it back in 2008, first when they covered up the pedophile I exposed in Iraq. Again, I'd remind everyone to read my book for that one. So we're coming up at 58 minutes, coming up on the end of the broadcast. I want to stop, take a moment, thank my Patreon supporters. Oh my God, people. I'm sorry, I can't, I'm managing 2 websites, trying to get this stuff out. I'm doing this podcast. Hopefully you'll actually be able to hear it today. I'm doing all of these things. I'm doing the best I can with what I've got, right? And I can only do it because of you. I've got what I've got because of my Patreon supporters and people who've bought my books. I turn around and put every penny of that. We've got the office here in Newport Richey. I'm not hiding. I'm not no Caramella hiding behind an unnamed whistleblower. No. PFC Berge reporting for duty. You guys keep helping me out. I'm going to keep fighting this fight. I'm going to continue to expose everyone that was responsible for my 2015 IG complaint and everyone responsible for covering it up and doing this to all Americans for the last decade, right? I'm going to keep doing that as long as you guys can keep helping me and support me. Please visit my page, patreon.com/TheShadowNetHacker. Again, that's patreon.com/TheShadowNetHacker. And with that, thank you, good day, and God bless.